I knew something was wrong the second I opened the door. The scent was off, not the pine and old books I grew up with, but some floral perfume that didn't belong here. Then I heard it running water upstairs. Someone was taking a shower in my cabin. I froze in the doorway, my keys still in my hand, realizing someone had moved into my grandfather's house while I was gone. I dropped my bag and called out, "Hello." Nothing, just the sound of water and the hum of a stranger's confidence. My heart pounded as I climbed the stairs. The hallway felt different, colder, rearranged. And when I reached my bedroom door, I saw her. She stepped out of this bathroom wearing my grandfather's old robe, his robe, and a towel twisted around her gray hair like she owned the place. Karen Hernandez, the HOA president. Her face didn't even flicker with surprise. She just smirked at me through the mirror. "Oh, Ethan," she said like she was catching up with an old friend, "you're early. We need to discuss the new arrangements. I live here now." I thought she was joking. "You... what?" But she didn't blink. She kept brushing her hair, calm as a cat after wrecking your furniture. "You were gone 3 weeks," she continued. HOA emergency intervention kicked in. You abandoned the property. I stepped in to protect community value. My stomach flipped. "This is my house," I shouted, but she just turned half smiling, half pitying, and said, "I already called the police about the break-in." Outside, sirens wailed closer, and that's when I realized she'd turned me into the intruder. When the cruiser pulled up, my blood went cold. Officer Ryan Baker stepped out, the same guy I'd seen chatting with her at HOA barbecues. He called her Mrs. Hernandez with that respectful tone that told me this was already over. She glided down the stairs in a crisp blouse. Now her hair dried, her papers ready. I stood there in travel clothes, looking like a bum caught sneaking into someone else's house. "Evening, officer," she said. "Thank you for coming so quickly. I feared for my safety." I stammered, holding out my license and inheritance papers. "This cabin is mine. It was my grandfather's. I've only been gone 3 weeks." Baker barely glanced at them. Karen handed him her folder stuffed with printed forms and fake signatures. She even had utility bills in her name mail forwarded to this address. "He's been gone," she said sweetly. "Neighbors complained about noise, strangers' neglect. We had to act fast." And Baker nodded, like she'd just saved the community from a vandal. He told me, calm as can be, "Maybe find somewhere else to stay until we sort this out, sir." That's when it hit me the system wasn't broken. It was working for her. I left my own cabin that night under flashing red and blue while she stood on the porch waving goodbye. Her silhouette in the doorway burned into my mind. That house was supposed to be my fresh start after years of renting in the city. Now it felt like a trap I'd walked right into. At the station, I tried to explain, but the more I talked, the crazier I sounded. Every document she'd forged looked official. Even the restraining order she'd filed against me had a judge's stamp. I sat there staring at the floor, asking myself the question that haunted me for days. Did I mess up? Did I really abandon it? I almost gave up. For a day, I actually believed her version might stick. Then my old college friend, David Coleman, a real estate lawyer, called me back. He spent an hour digging through county records and said, "Ethan, this isn't a misunderstanding. This is a pattern." He found 3 other homeowners from our HOA, all abandonment cases that ended with forced sales or transfers. The same Karen Hernandez's signature on every one. "She's not protecting property values," David said. "She's collecting them." We needed proof, something undeniable, and that's when the miracle happened. While pacing through the basement, I remembered my grandfather's weird obsession with birdwatching cameras. He'd rigged the cabin decades ago with hidden motion sensors disguised as feeders and clocks. I never thought they still worked. Until one light blinked. David and I powered up the old monitor. The feed loaded frame by frame, dusty, grainy footage, and there she was. Karen, using her HOA badge to enter my property weeks before I'd left. Measuring walls, taking photos, inspecting every inch like she was staging a real estate listing. Then came the real bombshell, a video from 2 weeks before my return. Officer Baker off duty, helping her move furniture. Their voices crystal clear on the mic. "This one'll be smoother than the Johnsons," she said. "As long as he doesn't come back early," Baker replied. I clenched my fists so hard I could feel my nails dig in. My grandfather's cameras meant for owls and deer had just caught two predators in uniform and pearls. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than fear. I felt rage sharpen into focus. David contacted an internal affairs detective, Lisa Walsh, who'd been quietly investigating Baker's financial records. She confirmed what we suspected: bribes, property transfers, hush payments. We joined forces, building a timeline linking fake HOA documents to fraudulent police reports. Every piece fit. But we couldn't go public yet, they'd destroy everything. We needed to strike once in public with no escape. And the perfect place. The upcoming HOA board meeting where Karen planned to formalize her right to occupy my cabin. For days, my nerves burned. I barely slept. Karen was still parading around the neighborhood acting like Queen of Pine Hollow, handing out evidence packets painting me as unstable a threat to the community. Baker even cornered me outside the grocery store one evening, murmuring, "Things get complicated for people who don't cooperate." I wanted to punch him. Instead, I hit record on my phone. Another piece of evidence. By Friday night, the hall was packed. Folding chairs, buzzing neighbors, the faint smell of burnt coffee, and tension thick enough to choke on. Karen stood at the podium in her blazer, smiling like she was about to announce a charity drive. Baker leaned against the back wall in uniform, arms crossed, radiating authority. Mr. McMichael. Karen began, her voice smooth and commanding, has shown a pattern of neglect and disregard for community standards. As HOA president, it became my duty to protect the neighborhood's integrity. The projector behind her flashed photos of my cabin, overgrown lawn, dark windows, all taken while I was away. She twisted every detail into evidence of abandonment. When she was done, she folded her hands and said, "Now, I know this is uncomfortable, but leadership requires difficult decisions." I stood up. My voice shook at first, but it carried. "You're right, Karen. Difficult decisions like breaking into someone's home, forging their name, and lying to the police." Gasps filled the room. She laughed, strained and brittle. "Ethan, please, don't embarrass yourself. The community has heard enough." I walked to the front, plugged in my laptop, and said, "Then let's hear from the cameras you missed." The screen flickered, then footage rolled. Karen unlocking my door weeks before I left. Her rearranging my grandfather's furniture. Her and Baker moving boxes inside. And their voices clear as confession. "Timeline adjustment," Baker said on screen. Just like the Johnson case, Karen replied. The room went silent. You could feel it the moment people realized their responsible HOA president was a thief. Karen's face went pale, then red. "This is illegal. You can't record me without consent," she yelled, stepping forward. "This is entrapment." Before I could answer, a woman rose from the crowd. Mrs. Parker, my elderly neighbor. Her hands trembled as she spoke. I saw them. I was too scared to tell anyone, but I saw it all. That broke the dam. Other residents began shouting stories, anger, betrayal, and Karen. She cracked. "You're all fools," she screamed. "Without me, this place would fall apart." She turned toward Baker, desperate. "Ryan, do something." But Baker's face had drained of color, because from the back of the room, Detective Walsh was walking forward, badge in hand. "I will," she said. "Karen Hernandez. Officer Ryan Baker. You're both under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and abuse of authority." The cuffs clicked shut, metal against silence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then slowly, applause started, cautious at first, then louder, swelling into the sound of a community finally waking up. I just stood there, breathing, watching the woman who'd tried to steal my life being led out of the hall in handcuffs. Her eyes met mine one last time, full of disbelief that the system she'd built finally turned against her. That's where it ended for me. No celebration, no champagne. Just the echo of those cuffs and the knowledge that my grandfather's quiet vigilance, his cameras, his love for that cabin had saved everything. When I went home that night, I replaced the locks and sat on the porch watching dawn spill across the pines. The house was mine again, but it felt different. I understood now how easily power can twist people, how fast community protection can turn into control. The truth. Sometimes justice doesn't come from the law or the police or the HOA board. Sometimes it comes from the evidence you refuse to stop believing in and the courage to press play.